Play. Our afternoon session is now convened. And Honorable Secretary Senator Saplan will introduce or will read the heading of each resolution, and the author of that resolution will give us a better briefing, or we say in Kiribati, sales pitch. And if it's good, we move on. Adopt, no adopt, or defer to tomorrow morning, but we're going to go like that. Keep moving. That being said...
President, may I have a privilege and information?
Speaker Katie, go ahead.
Thank you, President. I understand a couple of resolutions are still being processed. How do we want to continue with what we have before us and then continue on with the forthcoming? Is that my understanding?
Your understanding is very correct, because your marshallese is the one speaking. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
If no more comments, Honorable Secretary Senator Saplan.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon to all the members and all who are joining us in this chamber today. We are at the portion of our agenda which was supposed to begin this morning, and that is on the introduction of resolutions. And as stated by our President and requested by our President, in front of you, you probably have 13 resolutions. There are, I think, 5 more being printed, so we will start with what we have due to the time. I will read the first resolution, and then the President will recognize the author of the resolution, and from there the author will articulate the angle and the approach of why the introduction, why they introduced the resolution. And then from there, deliberations and dialogue can happen, and then the President will welcome any motions for action. Okay? So we will start with APIL resolution number 39GA01, expressing the sincere appreciation to Senator Glenn Wakai of the state of Hawaii for his invaluable contributions and support for peoples in need throughout the APIL Pacific, especially the Republic of Palau and her citizens. This resolution was introduced by the members of the Republic of Palau, and I yield back to the President to recognize the author.
Chair recognizes Republic of Palau to move for adoption, then we get into the discussion.
Thank you, Chair. In our last virtual meeting, where Senator Wakai was present, we brought this issue up to him, and he basically asked if to follow up on it if the support that he provided to Palau had arrived. So yes, and I heard that, and it did, had arrived, and it so happened that he provided school materials in huge containers that were arrived in Palau. And so happened that one of the recipients of the contribution or support that Senator Wakai provided is sitting right next to me. His elementary school benefited from that assistance. But as I've heard, Senator Wakai's team, which is the SWAT, not only have supported Palau, but supports throughout the APIL countries. So it's just appropriate that with this generous assistance from Senator Wakai, since we are here today, maybe it's just appropriate that we recognize it as a family of one of us who's unable to join us this time. But I'm confident that in his absence, his heart will be felt with, of thanks and appreciation from this body. I'm not going to go through the whole resolution. I'm sure you have it, but that's the whole notion behind putting forward this resolution, giving thanks and appreciation to Senator Wakay from state of Hawaii. Thank you, Mr. President.
It is a Thanksgiving resolution, so any move for adoption? Move and seconded that we adopt resolution APIL 01. Discussion?
Mr. President, I move to adopt and support the resolution on the Palau delegation.
Move to close debate on resolution 39GA01. Those in favor of motion for adoption of APIL resolution number 39-GA-01, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say nay. Resolution adopted, Honorable Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I move on? Yes. Okay, we now move on to APIL Resolution Number 39GA02, titled respectfully calling upon Air Nauru to reinstate its pre-COVID-19 pandemic schedule of airline flights to, from, and between the island destinations of the APIL Pacific, and requesting Air Nauru to revive its efforts to expand its services to the north and the west of its present routines, linking more of the islands of the APIL Pacific region within airline hub centers such as Fiji, Guam, and Manila, leading into Micronesian destinations. Mr. President, I yield back to you for recognition of the authors.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Honorable delegates, the said resolution is pretty much self-explanatory, and based on the presentation this morning, we noted few things. One, monopoly is unwise. Competition is wise. I don't know if it's appropriate, but I move for adoption of this resolution.
President?
Move and seconded, discussion.
Yeah, President?
RMI?
Yeah, as I understand it, and I just confirmed with my colleague from Kiribati as well, our airline, Air Nauru, will be resuming service come 16th to Majuro, direct from Kiribati. All the other routes, perhaps they'll continue as well, but as I understand it, from the south to the north, direct link to Majuro, it's happening in a few days. Just to let us know. Otherwise, we'll support the resolution also.
Chair recognizes Palau.
Oh, sorry, I left my mic open. Thank you, Mr. President. Palau do support the intent of this resolution, and since the call would extend the route to Manila, that gives more reason for support, because, you know, to Manila would be a good competition with United. And since I saw another resolution that calls for the reduction of asking United to reduce its rate or fare, it will be just appropriate to get this through, so that we'll give a little bit of competition to United so that they can, you know, reduce their airfare. Thank you, Mr. President.
President,
Honorable Semina.
since you mentioned that is self-explanatory, the resolution, and I move for closed discussion. Madam.
Move and seconded for adoption. Those in favor, please say yay. Opposed, say nay.
Just a point of clarification. Thank you.
Let's have a recess. Palau?
Mr. President, Palau duly fully support this resolution. I was just scanned through it. From my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that United is one of the most expensive airline on earth. You look at it from a per mile perspective. If you break down their rates, their per mile, it's one of the most expensive per mileage, per mile. And I think that something needs to be highlighted in here, because we need to tell United that this is what makes the APIL members so disappointed over the way we were being treated over time. Of course, it's a monopoly because this is the only airline that flies through, but the way they've been treating us to pay their fare is just unbelievable. And that's, so I would propose that if possible, Mr. President, let's do some research and insert some sort of number in here. I saw that you have the number between Hawaii and Pohnpei or something like that. But if we break this down to per miles, it will be very clear that it's one of the most expensive airlines on the surface of this earth, I would think. So just a suggestion, and otherwise we can go ahead and pass this. Thank you.
Let the record clearly states Hawaii State Senator Glenn Wakai was preparing to attend. And when he visited the UA ticketing office at Alamona, or to the, he noticed that's about almost 3 times of what he used to pay from Hawaii to Ponape and back. Any further comments? Senator Torres, Guam?
I just had a point of inquiry. Is there anything have we also explored whether the prices have been affected by any adjustments at the airport rates, the landing rates, for example, or the per passenger rates? Or has the escalation in the prices been controlled mostly by the airlines because nothing about our airport fees for per passenger charges or landing fees or the such has been affected? Has that been determined? I just want to know the landscape to better support my decision with this resolution.
Research was done, or research was conducted, and what is stated and revealed to the researcher is, it is a fact that no basis for the 200 to 300 times increase of fare. And from Pohnpei to Hawaii and from Majuro to Hawaii is more expensive than Pohnpei to Hawaii. And I still have the tickets with me. And there are more research results. So the answer is yes, and it is not justifiable.
Thank you. And I also just wanted to comment that as from Guam's perspective, we are also aware that the federal government has ensured the stability of the airport by ensuring that no airport operations were affected. So additional monies were given to them when the airlines ceased to fly or there was very limited things. So the effect of COVID, for example, on the shutdown should not have been a factor to airport costs and cost of operations. So that's why I was wondering if in fact we established that this price discrepancy is not borne by anything that our respective jurisdictions have caused in terms of added cost or the like. Because I know that in Guam, we were secured and nothing changed about operations, even when there were no passengers landing or airlines. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Torres. Speaker Katie?
Yeah, thank you, President. I think aside from looking at the immediate need, and I fully support the resolution, we should probably look ahead also further down the road and see if we can, as APIL, with ultimate matter partners, bring in another airline to service the region. My recollection of one of the General Assembly's meeting of APIL a few years back, we did pass a resolution where we agreed to bring a regional airline to service all our entities. And our airline was the immediate airline that we consider, and it's now servicing, but we wanted to look at our other options. In terms of the question posed by Guam, Marshall Island, we've been cooperating with United Airlines when they had concern about our telecom tower being close to the airport, and they said they had to waste some fuel, taking off because of their tower. We relocate the tower. And then they told us the trees were in the way of their service as well. We cut the trees. But the price remained the same, and then even further down the road, many years later, F skyrocketed as stated in the resolution. So to address that question, we've been working, try to work with our sole air service provider, but nothing had changed, and we don't expect any change any soon. But I support the resolution, but I think further down the road, as leaders, looking ahead of today, we should really focus on getting another airline or two to service our region. Thank you.
RMI 2?
Thank you, Mr. President, and to add on to what my speaker just stated, if you have a chance, just for the record, and like similar with the speaker, I support this resolution. But I think one thing that we have to focus on is a body, is the type of treatment that we're getting from the airline, not just the price. For example, if you have a chance and you fly through Majuro, all the passenger will be on the plane. We'll be seated and we will wait for the tuna to get on the plane. So I think United Airlines, for the record, they need to change their motto from no tuna left behind to no people left behind. So in saying that, thank you, Mr. President.
I was on the flight, United Airlines to Honolulu, July 25th, few months back. And when we arrived Koshai, the aircraft mechanic detected minor mechanical problem. Then we were forced to fly to Kwajalein and through Majuro. And I don't have anything against that. But this is the first time ever that I sit and sleep until next day in the afternoon. Why? They don't want us to get off the plane, or they allow us to get off the plane, and the patients from Pohnpei spend the night on the concrete floor of the RMI departure lounge. No other services were provided, no pillows, no nothing. I'm not complaining, but I like the history. I love history making. So, any further discussion? Kirbat?
No, it would be just interesting to explore another possibility of getting another airline. It doesn't make sense in our islands. Getting to the northern hemisphere, we always have to go down south. Yeah. Before that, we usually had Nauru linking us all the way to Guam and then onto Asia. But now, without any further service up north, we're just listening and explore this possibility. Maybe Nauru will take advantage of having no other competitor down this way. They'll probably hike up the prices. So it would be just interesting to know if United Airlines will be interested to serve Kiribati as well, provided that the federal, we're in compliance with their requirements in the islands, just like they're doing in Majuro. And then as a second alternative, there's always Christmas Island to serve on the way up to Honolulu. You can stop by rather than going down south of Fiji up to Christmas Island. Probably there's an alternative there, but it would be interesting if they can extend the study and probably help in the drop prices. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion? CNMI?
Thank you, Mr. President. And in the CNMI, we recognize the contributions of United Airlines as a long-standing partner. However, we have not been spared by the price disparity and the drastic changes in price. On some days, it costs more than $500 just to go to Guam, which is like a 30-minute flight. And so to address this issue, the CNMI recently inaugurated a new airline, commuter although, but Marana Southern Airways is able to bring us to Guam at $99 one way, each way. So we have that new alternative, and I think that this resolution really will address a lot of the concerns that we share as a region, and we're in support of this resolution. Thank you.
Senator Simina?
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I move for close discussion on this matter, I think actions speak louder than words. And let's move forward with the appropriate action and approach this issue professionally. Thank you, Mr. President. I move for close discussion on this issue.
Move and seconded on the debate. Vote for adoption or kill. Those in favor say yea. Opposed say nay. resolution adopted. Next.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next resolution is APIL Resolution Number 39GA04, to respectfully encourage APIL member entities to establish a broadband task force to explore broadband equity for the underserved and unserved communities of the Blue Continent. Mr. President, this is offered by the CNMI, and I yield back to you to recognize the author.
Chair recognizes the author of Resolution 39GA04. CNMI.
Thank you, Mr. President. And in line with the theme for this year's General Assembly, which is health as well, the CNMI puts forward this resolution to explore equity and regional collaboration for the formulation of a broadband task force to allow us to see what kind of opportunities are out there to expand our capacity in its connection to health as well. This opportunity will also give us a chance to shift our reliance to telehealth services for services that are not readily available in our respective jurisdiction. And by shifting that reliance to telehealth, we also have an opportunity to decrease our dependence on off-island medical referrals, which for the Commonwealth at least has caused a severe financial strain, given that in the last fiscal year we spent upwards of $19 million on medical referral. And so we would like to see a regional collaboration to build our broadband capacity as a region and see how this can benefit us in terms of increasing our healthcare service capacity. Also, we like to note that the United States Treasury recently identified substantial amount of funding to help jurisdictions increase their broadband capacity. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion, Madam Vice Speaker, Guam.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Guam stands in support of this resolution 3904. For us personally, as the oversight chair of telecommunications and technology for Guam, the commitment to look at establishing this broadband task force and to explore the possibilities. We all know here that with the recent pandemic and the need to change the mindset to better understand and to try and communicate, to literally even have our meetings. We need it. We need that technology. And this is one way of supporting that. And when you look at the opportunity of Uncle Sam saying there's funds out there, you know, they should literally just work closely with us. But in this effort, I think as a united voice that we can show them that we want to unite in this effort to support the communications and technology. As technology changes every 6 months, earlier today they talked about we'll probably not be using our phones, we'll be using something else, you know. So we need to get ahead of the game, and all together we can really support this effort moving forward. So we stand in support of this resolution. Sainamasi.
Further discussion? Senator Torres of Guam.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to congratulate the CNMI on a very forward-looking, forward vision resolution, because this, in fact, has closed the gap in Guam where we had critical deficiencies in specialists, and telehealth has filled that gap, especially where there's a worldwide shortage of certain specialties. So I congratulate you on having a good forward vision with this resolution, and we stand in full support.
Congratulations, well noted by CNMI. Any further discussion? No discussion. Move for vote, adoption or no adoption. In favor, say yes. Opposed, say nay. Resolution adopted. Congratulations, CNMI. Next.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move on to APIL Resolution Number 39GA05, requesting the APIL member entities to collaborate on formulating regional policies and strategies to implement a universal garbage collection campaign and expand on regional zero waste initiatives to mitigate the detrimental environmental impact on land and in the marine waters that unite the Blue Continent. This resolution was offered by the CNMI, and I yield back to you, Mr. President, to recognize the author.
Chair recognizes CNMI.
Thank you, Mr. President, and once again, the Northern Marianas is pleased to put forward this resolution in the spirit of engaging in discussions to implement a holistic approach to garbage collection, and above all, to eliminate the disparity for those who cannot afford private garbage collection services and therefore leave waste to pile up in certain sections of our community. Part of this resolution also calls for zero waste initiatives. That is to explore all kinds of recycling programs that are out there, to explore waste to energy initiatives, to make sure that we leave less behind than when we found it. In the CNMI, the Governor's Economic Council has already initiated discussions to establish a universal garbage collection program. And so we'd like to bring this discussion to the regional level through this resolution. Thank you very much.
Discussion? Close debate, vote, adopt or no adopt. Those in favor say yes. Opposed say no. Resolution adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next resolution is APIL Resolution Number 39GA06, calling upon the APIL member jurisdictions to engage in regional cooperation to increase mental health awareness by advocating, initiating, and where appropriate, facilitating multi-sectoral collaboration and coordination to help bridge the gap in mental health care. Mr. President and members, this was offered by the CNMI, and I yield back to the President for his recognition.
Chair recognizes CNMI.
Thank you, Mr. President, and again, in line with the theme for this General Assembly, the CNMI is pleased to put forward this resolution calling attention to a major crisis in our region and in the world, and that is our mental health crisis, which has emerged rapidly, especially as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, which really stirred up a lot of unknown fears and anxiety, especially in those of our brothers and sisters who suffer from mental health issues. And so we feel that because of the compounding impacts of the pandemic, that there is a great need to call attention to this matter. We are pleased to also recognize the national implementation of the 211 National Mental Health Hotline. However, we would like to explore other ways to improve this service that we provide by localizing the hotline and by ensuring that we bridge any gaps in cultural sensitivities that should be included when a counselor is counseling an affected person from our region, especially where our culture, our way of life is significantly different from those of the U.S. mainland. And so we would like to find ways to figure out how we can work together to localize this effort and find a way to implement this effort in our region. In the CNMI, we've taken certain steps at this point. We've recently established the mental health court to take care of individuals who have been charged as a result of committing crimes as a result of their mental health conditions. We've also put forward a new law to provide behavioral health scholarships to students who want to pursue specialized degrees in this area so that we can incentivize them to take up a career in this area and help bridge the gap. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Discussion? No discussion, close debate. So let's vote, yes or no. Those in favor of the resolution said yes. Opposed say no. Motion adopted, resolution adopted. Next.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next resolution is APIL Resolution Number 39GA07, commending the Biden-Harris administration for the Pacific Islands tragedy and urging the United States to further its efforts in maintaining a free and safe Indo-Pacific. This resolution was offered by the island of Guam, and I yield back to the President for his recognition.
Chair recognizes Vice Speaker Guam.
Thank you, Mr. President. This resolution was submitted to thank the Biden administration for their work highlighting the importance of the Pacific Islands. Recently, all our presidents or our governors were invited to the White House for this important meeting. But more importantly, the White House committed over $810 million to the Pacific for the next decade. With this resolution, we are doing two things, I must say. We are thanking the U.S. for finally prioritizing the Pacific, and we are saying this is a good first step, and but that we can do more, and the APIL, all of us are willing to be partners for this important mission. All over the Pacific, Mr. President, all over the world, democracy is being threatened. And we need to ensure that democracy can continue to prevail. And this is the reason for this resolution, Mr. President. I hope my colleagues support this efforts. Sanamasi.
Discussion?
I move that we close discussion, Mr. President.
Move and seconded that we close debate. I take that back. Before I will recognize the motion to close, I will, Kiripati, Aramai?
Well, I'll wait for the discussions then. If it's not closed, we have to have some discussion on the point.
I take back my
Yes, please.
recognition of
With all due
the...
respect, if they can kindly open discussion.
Go ahead.
Okay. At the moment, in the reality of things, if it comes to the vote that the WHO, sorry, with regards to, we beg to differ in some languages in the, but then again, with a commitment from the U.S. to members of the APIL community and the rest of the Pacific, we have no problem with that. But in the absence of our government in the meeting with the President of the United States, we feel it will be an awkward position to comment any further. So rather we will abstain from saying anything like so with all due respect to the member from Guam and all members.
Thank you, Kiripati. Aramai?
Thank you, Mr. President. I might be biased. RMI supports.
It's okay.
RMI supports Taiwan, but RMI like to note, for the sake of APIL's interests, now and in the future, and each member's sovereign right to foreign affairs and policies. I like to apologize ahead of time to my colleague, Vice Speaker from Guam, as far as the language on line 13 to 16 on the resolution. I think it's a little bit harsh. I mean, the wording. So I'm not sure how the other countries that have diplomatic relations with China, because it's singled out here in line 13, whereas in light of Chinese dollar diplomacy, I mean, when we single out a member of United Nations, I don't think we're not too comfortable with those kind of language. Marshall Islands is pro and have a unique relationship with the United States, but at the same time, we support Taiwan and we have diplomatic relations with Taiwan. And we stand firm with that, but we have no enemy and we cannot single a nation out. And I'm not sure the other members, but I'm a little hesitant in reading this kind of language on the resolution, and I apologize to my colleague. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Aramai. Kiripati?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think the Marshall Islands representative has made it pretty clear. We beg to differ on some of the wordings, especially the Chinese dollar diplomacy. And we just request if another more appropriate language can be used. Yes, but in any case, we'll abstain from the vote.
Any further discussion?
Mr.
Speaker?
Yeah. If I may yield the floor to Vice Speaker Guam first.
I think,
RMI Speaker yields the floor to
thank you, Mr. President.
Vice Speaker Guam.
Thank you, Mr. President, and literally acknowledging and sharing understanding what's happening today, and in the interest of collaboration and unification and trying to work together. And I probably won't have an objection to deleting the word Chinese, and assuring that it is our efforts to know that in our efforts of moving forward and working as one unified blue continent, that these are first steps on making sure that there is that strong relationships, and that the United States is finally is stepping up to the plate. It's probably taken a little time for Uncle Sam, but it's there, and that realization is coming. So again, the first step in order to work the diplomacy, I'm even willing to delete that word, the word Chinese. That's my compromise.
Speaker Katie?
Thank you, President. Yeah, I wholeheartedly support what was stated by my colleague here, Chairman Canego. If we look among ourselves in this very chamber today, right now, more of us have diplomatic ties with China than ROC Taiwan. So in introducing a resolution like this in this body, where solidarity is the goal and aim and always been the objective of this August body, and I fully support everything that Guam, the intent and what they want us to follow. But the issue at hand is for each entity, they have their own policy, decision-making process. And when we bring resolution like this and a couple other resolutions, I'm seeing resolution number 9, which I have no issue having, ROC Taiwan included in the WHO. We believe they have to. We have always stated that in the United Nations, RMI. And then we have another resolution, also 17, trying to have Taiwan joining this August body. I have little issue with that too. But the point being is that for the sake of our APIL solidarity in moving forward as Pacific Islanders in this blue continent of ours, let's try to leave the one China issue for the appropriate one China issue countries to deal with. The relationship between, as stated by my chairman, between RMI and Taiwan, it's an excellent cooperation. And I made that clear in my letter to President Tsai actually a couple of days ago in congratulating her on the 10th anniversary and the independence of Taiwan, as we believe they are. But then again, most of our members here have a different view on that. So for the sake of our APIL solidarity and one moving forward, let's try to focus on increasing and collaborating with our respective diplomats and partners, and also at the same time honoring other members and diplomatic partners at the same time. And I agree that anything that we do here in trying to impose what show call, if we want to call it that, or if it's fact, so be it in other countries. Talent diplomacy, maybe is happening in other countries, but maybe not all countries. So I would agree that we also delete such language from the resolution. But for the sake of our blue continent family here, let's move forward as one and as being the same, and we'll continue to do so, and recognizing the different diplomatic partners that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker Katie. Vice Speaker Guam. Any further comments?
Mr. President.
Vice Speaker Fikir from YAP. Too many Vice Speakers. Now Speaker Vincent Fikir of
Never
YAP.
mind the title and the names, Mr. President. In the interest of time, I think this resolution, action on this resolution should be deferred until the complicating interests are resolved, probably for consideration for tomorrow. Thank you. I so move.
Moved and seconded that we defer the resolution 07 to tomorrow. Those in favor say yes, opposed say nay. Motion deferred. Resolution 07 deferred for tomorrow. Next.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are now on resolution number 39GA08, expressing appreciation to the governments of the United States and Australia and to UNICEF, which is the United Nations Children's Emergency Fund, for providing desperately needed humanitarian assistance to the people of the Republic of Kiribati who are suffering from the severe hardships of an extended drought. Mr. President and members, this is offered by the Republic of Kiribati, and I yield back to the President for his recognition.
Chair recognizes delegation from Kiribati.
Thank you, Mr. President, and Mr. President and the honorable delegates. It is indeed a great privilege that I can share with you an outline of the resolution proposed by the Kiribati delegation on the expression of appreciation for the wonderful support and assistance for Kiribati during the severe drought faced by the people of Kiribati. In June this year, Kiribati declared a state of disaster for the whole of Kiribati in response to the prolonged drought currently affecting the country. The declaration was critical considering the increased salinity of water sources caused by the lack of rainfall. The drought will continue to be felt throughout the country until the end of the year. The state of disaster declaration will allow the coordination efforts between the National Disaster Management Office, the local, national, regional, and international bodies to provide support and assistance to the people of Kiribati during the crisis. For this, people throughout Kiribati are being advised to conserve and use water wisely. The United States, through the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, is providing 500,000 humanitarian assistance to respond to the drought across Kiribati due to below normal rainfall, exacerbated by the ongoing impacts of climate change. So far this year, some areas have recorded less than 2.3 inches of rainfall total. The resulting drought has affected all 123,000 people residing in Kiribati, including 94,000 people in the severe impacts, the Kiribati group, which is heavily dependent on rainwater harvesting. In the light of the severe drought, Kiribati has received donation and assistance in the form of cash, grants, and in-kind form. The U.S., Australia, New Zealand, Japan, People's Republic of China, and the UNICEF. In recognition of such humanitarian assistance and to follow our specific traditions, the Kiribati Parliament would like to kindly seek the endorsement of the members, entities of the APIL community to join Kiribati in offering our sincere gratitude and appreciation for the great support Kiribati has received from the Genialis from the U.S. and Australia, Japan and New Zealand, China and the Republic of China, and the UNICEF. Thank you for your attention.
Discussion?
Move for adoption.
Moved and seconded that we adopt the resolution GA08. Those in favor say yes. Opposed say no. Resolution adopted. Next. Chair asks that we pause to recognize the entry and presence of the Honorable Isonanikan of Matilanium. And let's give him a huge round of applause. Mr. Secretary, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next is APIL Resolution Number 39GA09, relative to supporting the Republic of China, Taiwan, in its participation as observer at the World Health Organization's 76th World Health Assembly. Mr. President and members, this resolution was introduced by the island of Guam, and I yield back to the President for his recognition.
Chair recognizes Vice Speaker Guam.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This resolution was submitted to allow Taiwan to be an observer in the World Health Organization, World Health Assembly. Mr. President and colleagues, when it comes to healthcare, we must not discriminate and allow Taiwan, a country that has helped Guam and many other of our island brothers and sister nations through COVID, they should be allowed to be afforded a seat at that table. When lives are in danger, we cannot sit here and play politics, and we must do the right thing. And I hope that this resolution, that I personally can count on the support of our colleagues here, as Taiwan has worked closely with a lot of our island nations in their efforts to bringing not just their expertise, but their supply and all, and the training to help our island nations. And I think that this resolution is fitting, and I hope that our colleagues can support this effort.
Further discussion? Airline?
President, thank you. I 100% support this particular resolution. In fact, before my departure to come here for APIL's meeting, I certify a resolution at the Parliament alluding to the same. Not only the WHO, but also ICAO and many other agencies of the United Nations. And just for the record, Marshall Island, every year, I introduce resolution in support of Taiwan, inclusion to the United Nations entities and United Nations as a whole. And we believe they really have to. 23 million people of Taiwan deserve to be part of this big organization of the world. During the COVID pandemic, they played a major role in assisting many countries and also sharing information and data to assist countries. Marshall Island is one of them. So we fully support this, and we want to go on record as supporting it 110%. Thank you.
Palau?
Thank you, Mr. President. Allows them to fully support Resolution 39GA09. As I just want to highlight the fact that, of course, Taiwan have pulled so much health assistance in the Pacific. During the pandemic, the first country that got us through was Taiwan, brought us equipment on a fishing boat to Palau. So that was, so great assistance provided by Taiwan. But on the other hand, Palau depend on Taiwan for medical referrals. So we go to Taiwan or we go to Philippines. Taiwan has demonstrated an expertise at the international level on medical treatments. So I think it's just appropriate that we provide support for them to enter into the WHO for the sake of everyone's health here.
That would be, thank you, Palau. Aramai, that would be the last comment, and I will close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I, along with the speaker, fully support, RMI fully support Taiwan inclusion into the World Health Organization General Assembly. And not because it's only say in the bylaw of WHO, but as the Honorable Vice Speaker had mentioned, that disease has no borders. And we have experienced in the recent outbreak of COVID-19, if something happens in Taiwan, and Taiwan is not included in WHO, what would happen to the rest of the world? How are we going to know if there's an outbreak if they're excluded from WHO? And I truly believe, and RMI truly support, that Taiwan should be at least an observer in the WHO General Assembly, or even go in as a country of their own. For example, one of their best practices is their healthcare insurance. They have the best in the world, and WHO have mentioned that. And that's one thing that we can learn from them. And having them included in World Health Organization General Assembly is very important for them to be part, so we can learn from what they have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just point of clarification, maybe it's we can treat it as a technical to Vice Speaker on page 2, line 3, just for consistency. Was it supposed to be People's Republic of China, Taiwan, or do you want to omit People's? Yeah. So just to treat as a technical, if agreed upon by the author, to strike out People's, and we'll treat that as a technical
So
language.
moved, Mr. President, please.
It's a technical.
It's a technical.
Those in favor for the adoption of Resolution 39GA09, say yes. Opposed, say nay. Resolution adopted. And make the correction.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next resolution is resolution number 39GA10, respectfully requesting the Pacific Islands Medical Aid Organization to revitalize its medical assistance programs for the APIL Pacific, and especially for the needy citizens of the Republic of the Kiribati. Mr. President, this was offered by Republic of Kiribati, and I yield back to you for your recognition.
Chair recognizes Kiribati.
Thank you, Mr. President. Honorable delegates, we indeed acknowledge the assistance provided for the Pacific Islands medical aid to Kiribati over the past 15 years or so. Unfortunately, that stopped for probably for political reasons, but nonetheless, the funding provided assistance for round-trip airfare of U.S. medical team, including the accommodations in Maine and Kiribati, and it also provided round-trip air tickets, meal and accommodation for Kiribati state patients that were on referral to Hawaii and other states in the United States. Most of the patients include heart cases, orthopedic and ear, nose, and throat cases. As part of Kiribati South Select Committee, we paid a visit to try and revive our kinship with the two teams, and we made a visit to the Pima, and including Shriners Hospital in Honolulu, and the response we got was positive. All they need is a formal request from our government if they can ask if to continue this kind of service for our people. In the case of Pima, they need to pull in the pool of doctors, to revive this association. So once they get the request, the lead doctor used to be in charge of the team back then we'll try and see if other interested members can join them. Nonetheless, we acknowledge the charitable support of Island's medical aid program in providing free medical services throughout APL Pacific community, including Kiribati over the years. As a tradition, I would like to acknowledge the great support of PIMA to Kiribati and expressing our sincere gratitude and appreciation for the wonderful work. In light of such, I would therefore request the member entities of the APIL community to join Kiribati in offering our thanks for this great humanitarian cause offered to our islands. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seconded, moved and seconded that we close debate. Vote on adoption or no adoption. In favor of adopting Resolution 10, say yes. Opposed, say no. Resolution 39G810 adopted. Next.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next resolution is APIL Resolution Number 39GA11, extending deepest and most sincere congratulations to the Honorable Aaron B. Palik on your election to the office of the 9th Vice President of the Federated States of Micronesia. Mr. President, this resolution was offered and signed by all the member entities of APIL, and I yield back to you to welcome any motions for action.
Chair recognizes the author. Is this Palau? Recess for a few.
To the Bill Rayner Micronesia Challenge Scholarship Endowment Fund. And this resolution was offered by the FSM State of Chuuk, and I yield back to you for your recognition.
Thank you, Secretary. Chair recognizes the grandfather of APIL, Senator Andrew.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. The delegation from FSM State of Chuuk fully support this resolution and appeal that this assembly also support this. But just to highlight, Mr. President, Republic of Marshall Island government has already participated in donating to this scholarship fund with amount of 50,000. So thank you, RMI. And for the past 3 years, Mr. President, the fund has supported more than 20 students from all over Micronesia like Guam, CNMI, FSM, RMI, and Palau, to earn their master's and PhD degrees from schools around the Pacific region. These scholars are now back home working in their countries and leading conservation and climate adaptation efforts. The goal, Mr. President, is to raise an endowment up to 1.2 million. The Micronesian Conservation Trust and the partners have raised around 900,000, which currently invested, and the earnings are used each year to support between 2 to 4 students with full scholarship. As US-based donor recently offered a challenge grant, if Micronesia can raise 100,000, they will give 200,000, which will allow to complete its goal of 1.2. As I mentioned before, that RMI Government Ministry of Education have donated 50,000 to the fund. They are asking governments, private business, and individuals to help them raise to the rest of they can secure this challenge grant and be able to continue to support our Micronesian students in the long term. So I move for an adoption, Mr. President.
Moved and seconded that we adopt the resolution. Discussion.
Mr. President,
Honorable Simena.
I fully support the resolution, but before I make motion to close discussion, as an education advocate, I think anything that has to do with education, I always support. And education is the investment of everything that we have in our, the process that we have in the governments or in the highlands. And I fully support the resolution. I move for close discussion on that.
Moved and seconded that we close discussion on this said resolution. And the last testimony from Senator Simena is better future hinges on better education. And education is now, not the future. Vote for adoption or defeat in favor say yes? How come only two? Okay. Both say, don't say no. Adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are now on APIL Resolution number 39GA13, expressing support for the FSM's Blue Prosperity Micronesia initiative and encouraging all APIL entities to conserve our environment and its natural resources, especially the natural biodiversity of our ecosystems. This resolution was offered by Senator Andrew May, Senator Simena, and Senator Figueroa, and I yield back to you, Mr. President, for recognition of any of the
Chair
others.
recognizes the highest rank of signatories or the author of this resolution. So Chair recognizes Speaker of, yep, how come you shine? The grandfather, Hugh.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I think we all understand in regards to this resolution since we heard about the presentation. And with that, Mr. President, if any question we can answer, but I think it's enough that we were at the lunchtime and we heard about the presentation. So even.
Do I support since I did not eat? Discussion?
Mr.
No
President,
discussion?
Mr. President, since I'm
one of the others,
since
Senator
I'm one
Semena.
of the authors of the resolution, I think it's well self-explanatory, but we mentioned about the environment and in line with the theme is health is wealth, and I think it's in support of this. I really want the Assembly to adopt this. Thank you, Mr. President.
No motion to close debate. Chair rules that we close debate and we move to vote, adoption or no adoption. In favor of adoption of Resolution 14, say yes. Opposed, say no. Tom, get out. Let's take a 1-minute break to give time for Palau and legal counsel to
Water.
Mr. Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next resolution is APIL Resolution Number 39GA14, expressing the utmost gratitude and profound appreciation to Pacific Islands Development Bank, PIDB, FSM Petroleum Corporation, Airline Fisheries Corporation, Bank of the Federated States of Micronesia, FSM Development Bank, and Micronesian Conservation Trust for your magnanimous support and patronage in hosting the activities of the APIL 39th General Assembly here in the state of Pohnpei. Mr. President, I yield back to you as one of the authors of this resolution.
The Chair recognizes the Vice Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. My respect to all members of this APIL Assembly. In our Micronesian way, extending special appreciation in the form of thank you is the most important thing in the cultures and the Christianity of many of us. Mr. President, the NGO and organizations that we ask for their help in hosting of this 39th General Assembly, they contributed a lot. The businesses and NGOs, that was read out by our good secretary. But one of the company is still missing that needs to be placed in this particular resolution. And I will ask that the Secretary and the Secretariat, if they can kindly insert somewhere where they can place in the heading, and also where the copy of this resolution has been resolved. It is National Fisheries Corporation, NFC. So if they can kindly insert that institution also part of this resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Speaker. Chair rules that the resolution be deferred until tomorrow so that the necessary corrective actions can be done. Next.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next is APIL Resolution Number 39GA15 to request support for and participation in invasive species management and eradication efforts in Micronesia. Mr. President, this was offered by the FSM State of Pohnpei, and I yield back to you for your recognition.
Chair recognizes the grandfather of APIL, Senator Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. President. While numerous invasive species are in Micronesia and creating many negative impact on our environment, food security, health, culture, and economy, the little fire ant, the coconut rhinoceros beetle, and the brown tree snake are the most urgent to deal with because of the following reasons. First, we still have a good chance of eradicating them from places like Palau, Rota, and Yap, keeping them from reaching many of our islands. Second, they are the most expensive and complicated to eradicate and the most costly to our environment and economy. Third, they impact farming and food security. In Yap, where the little fire ant is established, we are spending thousands of dollars to eradicate them because farmers complain that the ants disrupt their farming activities, leading to food security problems. With planes and ships traveling throughout our islands, we want to raise the profile of these three invasive species so we can all concentrate on eradicating and controlling them from spreading to more islands. At the recent Pacific Ecological Security Conference in Palau, these three species were identified as top three invasive to focus our efforts. The U.S. federal agencies and other partners agencies and donors have identified these three invasive as their top priority. So, Mr. President, I move for an adoption.
Second.
Moved and seconded for adoption, Resolution 16. Discussion? No discussion? Where am I? Okay, 15. For the record, 15, not 16. Move for action? Vote. In favor, say yes. Opposed, say nay. Resolution 15 adopted. Next, Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next, we have resolution number 39 GA16, expressing appreciation that each and every one of the APIL member countries have become signatories to the Paris Agreement of 2015 and challenging our island governments to be ever vigilant, not only in meeting the climate goals and objectives of the Paris Agreement, but to earnestly campaign for stronger commitment among the global community to fight global warming. Mr. President, this resolution was signed by at least one of all the member entities that are here, and I yield back to you for your recognition.
Thank you, Honorable Secretary. Chair recognizes Delegate Benita Yanganmai.
Yang Tamai from Samoa. Okay, so I had to look this up. Paris Agreement is about the global warming, and we have to be involved in this, all of us. But I have to question the Northern Marianas, since we are under the U.S., and U.S. is doing it for us, right? Okay, so that's it. So if you agree for us to all work together so we can lower the emissions, the poison that's causing this global warming, then we should all be great. The earth will be happy. Thank you. I yield.
Further discussion?
Okay, please. Okay.
Speaker Gedi?
Yeah, briefly, just want to register our support for the very important resolution presented by our brothers and sisters from CNMI. The Paris Agreement, late Ambassador Tony de Broom and the RMI delegation played a major role in the I Ambition Coalition. And actually my granddaughter's middle name is Paris. That's our granddaughter, Tony de Broom's granddaughter, and my granddaughter. It was named after this event, big event that took place in Paris. So this for us is it's our future, and we welcome anybody that likes to enroll themselves and support the cause. So I just wanted to register that, and in memory of late Ambassador Tony de Broom, wholeheartedly support this resolution.
Further discussion? RMI 2?
Thank you, Mr. President. And I fully support, RMI fully support, along with our speaker. But if possible, I would like to also put my signature on the introduce. introducers for the sake of solidarity and full support of this important resolution. So I think if the opportunity would be open to the rest of the delegates, I think that would be really good if possible. Thank you, Mr. President.
Decision of the chair, delay until tomorrow, so the rest of the delegates interested to sign up, please sign up. Next, Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next, we have resolution number 39GA17, relative to extending an invitation to the Republic of China, Taiwan, as a member of the Association of Pacific Island Legislatures. Mr. President, this is introduced by the island of Guam, and I yield back to you for your recognition.
Chair recognizes Senator Tina, Vice Speaker, Guam.
Thank you, Mr. President, and with all due respect, based on earlier conversations, I'd like to at least just set this aside so that I could have further conversations with our colleagues and maybe have a discussion tomorrow or come up with an amicable resolution to see what we can do. So I'd like to just set this aside for right now.
Chair rules for further reconciliation and consultation of this GA17 no later than tomorrow. Any later than tomorrow, it's going to be next Executive General Assembly, Executive meeting. Next, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next is APIL resolution number 39GA18, relative to expressing concerns and disappointment over the suspension of climate change dialogue between China and the United States, and urging for meaningful cooperation to curb the detrimental impacts of climate change on small island nations. Mr. President, this resolution was offered by the island of Guam, and I yield back to you for your recognition.
Chair recognizes Madam Vice Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, this resolution was submitted after hearing President Panuelo's remarks yesterday. Just like with health care, climate change requires all global leaders to take an active role to be at the forefront. You know, we cannot allow disagreements to get in the way of critical climate change dialogue. You know, we can respectfully disagree, like some of my colleagues here have done with my resolutions today, but that does not mean that we cannot be respectful and still work together on other crucial matters such as climate change. And this resolution literally brings to the forefront the need to put climate change at the forefront. And literally after hearing President Panuelo's strong statements yesterday, I believe that Guam believed that this was this resolution is in order. So I hope that our colleagues here support this effort on Resolution 18. Anamasi.
Open for discussion. Palau.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to explain the fact that Palau do support the intent of the resolution, but I have one question, or maybe just request. I know
Please.
We want to express our frustration over the suspension of dialogue between the two major, carbon emitter in the world. But I know as well that as a small island, we need to find ways for these two countries to come back to the drawing table and discuss the issue that very much affects every single one of us. So in that case, and I would suggest if we can kind of fine-tune the resolution to be positive rather than negative. So we're kind of urging them to come together rather than show disappointment over the fact that they kind of move away from the discussion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Palau. Chair recommends for the delay until tomorrow, so that you can fine-tune the tune of this to make it a very diplomatic resolution. Delay until tomorrow.
Thank you.
President?
Thank you, Mr. President. Next, we have APL Resolution Number 39GA19, calling for the creation of an APIL Standing Committee on Conservation and Climate Change to engage in regional and international cooperation to address needed conversations in climate change policy on adaptation, mitigation, climate finance, and for all other climate change purposes. Mr. President, I yield back to you as the author.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. President hereby recognizes the author of the resolution, which is me. Move for adoption. No discussion, vote. In favor of the resolution, say yes. Opposed, say nay. Resolution adopted. Next.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I believe this is our last resolution for today. And this is APL Resolution Number 39GA20, respectfully calling upon the health services departments of our respective APIL governments to place a priority on the rehabilitation of our people who have fallen victims to the long-term effects of the COVID-19 virus infections that have scourged the islands of the APIL Pacific. Mr. President, this was introduced by the FSM State of Chuuk, and I yield back to you for your recognition.
A delegation from Chuuk, can you entertain this, or the chair will delay until tomorrow? Thank you for your comment. This resolution is delayed until tomorrow.
President, privilege, if I may.
State your privilege.
Yeah, I believe there are a couple more resolutions still being processed through the LG's office. So if those could be also included in the agenda tomorrow.
Thank you. Tomorrow, we will entertain any and all resolutions. You people will officially order and submit. And we can dwell on those resolutions until Saturday midnight before the flight leaves. Did I address your issue, Honorable Speaker? Katie? Any further? It's miscellaneous. Any miscellaneous issues? If not, the chair will rule. We adjourn.
President.
Until Vice Speaker.
Thank you very much. Just a short announcement. I would like to inform all the delegates and members our visit to Ant Atoll to visit the Turtle Sanctuary initiated by APIL will take place on Saturday. So tomorrow morning, please sign up. All that are going on that trip, please, they will prepare a signing list so the organizing committee can understand how many of us visiting on early morning of Saturday before we return back, and those going back to Chuuk, Guam, Saipan, and Palau in the midnight flight. So this is a short announcement for signing before going Saturday.
Announcement, simply asking for sign up for Ant trip. It is not spelled A-N-T. The name is different than A-N-T. Sienna Mai?
Thank you, President. In my excitement to introduce everyone from the CNMI, the members of the delegation, I forgot to introduce myself. I am Representative Danita Kaipat Yantamai, and I am from Saipan, not Samoa. Thank you.
Talofa. Any further announcement? Otherwise, we're hereby ask Senator Torres.
I was just going to ask you if it was inappropriate to pray to God for blessings other than today's, the traditional Pohnpei blessing of rain, when our visit to Aunt, if perhaps he can bless us with blessing number 2, which is what we have today, the beautiful sunny skies.
From you, Mrs. Vice Speaker, anything before I will recognize that request?
The sakao is ready now, Mr. President.
Okay. In choosing between Satan and heaven, I will rule that Madam Senator Torres to pray for better weather on Saturday.
Okay. I do offer this in all sincerity. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessings of the APIL, the good camaraderie, the friendships that we forged over these days that we are here in Pohnpei, the fabulous hospitality that has made us feel as if we are at home away from our homes. But we ask you, dear Lord, at our last event when we go to visit one of your glorious wonders, the Ant Atolls, that you allow us to have not your traditional Pohnpei blessings of rain, but that you shine your glorious rays of sun upon us so that we can truly have our one last send-off before we depart for our island nations and enjoy it fully and enjoy your nature and your wonderful nature. We ask this of you, dear Lord, to bless us in the other way with your glorious sunshine on that day. Thank you. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Father Torres. Meeting is adjourned. How many times am I going to say adjourn?